Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Ball and All podcast. My name is Mpho. I'm your host of this weekly basketball podcast. We're in the midst of the NBA Finals, so pretty much all the other basketball sits aside. I know the WNBA is going; it's heating up. The Liberty are trying to get themselves back up the table in the WNBA after not having the greatest of starts. They're showing us some flashes. They lost a tight one over the weekend. It was against the Sky. But yeah, so it's NBA Finals. It's Game 5. We're recapping Game 5 of the NBA Finals. It was an interesting one. Obviously, the series was 2-2, and they went back to the Bay to face the Golden State Warriors at home. And the question was, is this the game? Because whoever wins this gets championship point. In tennis, you get championship point, and then you either have to play the next point to win the game. This is what it is in basketball. This is championship point time for whoever wins game 5. And I said in the previous podcast that maybe if the Celtics won, it would have been championship point because they're going back home. But the Warriors won, and so now they have two chances of winning. The Celtics, I still think, are still in it. I did call Warriors in 6, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today. But remember, before we start, please do follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Adam Pomereki, or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Game 5 was great, guys. One of the best games you'll see in NBA Finals history. It ebbed and flowed. It was counter to the previous games, or the characteristics of each team. Obviously, normal games, the Celtics would go out as front runners, and they would be clawed back by the Warriors. This time, the Warriors were front runners. They came with momentum from Game 4. They closed out Game 4 very strongly, and they kept on coming through here, and they ended up winning by 10 points. However, it was really interesting to see because the Celtics couldn't shoot the ball from 3, but it was the Warriors who were driving through the paint. The Warriors struggled throughout the season to get into the paint and score. This time they were. Draymond Green had one of his worst NBA Finals games in Game 4, had one of his best in Game 5. He was a threat inside the paint, and that's what you wanted. And then on top of that, that defense in the fourth quarter of Game 4 carried over into Game 5. It was really interesting to see. But this was the game, and as you can see with my background, Andrew Wiggins arrives in this game. Scores 27 points, 16 rebounds. Jason Tatum also had 27 points. Before this game, many people were asking whether Steph needed to do more, similar to how LeBron did and needed to do more for the Cavs. But the difference between that Cavs team and this Warriors team is that even in the Warriors dynasty run, they used to have this term called strength in numbers, and today was a strength in numbers day. Steph was 0 from 9 from 3. You'll never get that ever again. It's the first time in his 133 playoff games that he hasn't scored a three-pointer. So he's 132 and 133 playoff games where he scored a three-pointer, and this is the only one. So all the trivia lovers know that Game 5 against Boston Celtics was the game. I never thought Steph would go and give them two 40-point games. I thought that's what they needed to get through because the Warriors were not playing the better basketball team of the Celtics. The Warriors were struggling on offense. We were trying to figure out how they were going to get the other guys in. I did say in the last podcast that you needed to try and find a way to get Andrew Wiggins in, and this time they did. They did so in a massive, massive way. He scored 16 rebounds with his 27 points. He was very dominant. This was the Andrew Wiggins that was the first-round draft pick. The number 1 draft pick. This is the guy that Minnesota wanted him to be, and he never was. But here, he's your 2-star. He's not a 1, he's a 2. And he doesn't have the mentality of a 1. But when you give him that opportunity in a team where other people are taking the pressure of scoring and everything else, this is who he becomes. Can he be a consistent scorer? Yeah, he's giving you 20 a night most of the time in the regular season. He was averaging 18 in the playoffs, so it was okay. It was just a quiet 18. This was a loud 27, very, very loud 27, especially on a night where Steph was not scoring well, and that was the most important. That was the most interesting thing about this game was that Steph wasn't scoring and the Celtics lost. Steph couldn't score, and the Celtics lost. And the Warriors, I think, were 20% from three in this game, and and the Celtics lost. They are 9 for 40 from 3 points, 22%, and they lost. Steph came out with 16 points. Clay with 21 points. He was really important. Clay has improved, and that's the thing about this series is that if you still remember, I spoke about that hierarchy, that draft pick, that hierarchy of the players. You put Steph, and then the Celtics starting five, and you probably negotiate putting Andrew Wiggins in there, maybe Draymond in there, and then the next Warriors players. This time, this series, Wiggins has moved up that order. So too is Clay. And the question obviously is Jason Tatum is diminishing. Jalen Brown, this game diminished a lot. We never got that. But this game ebbed and flowed. The Celtics came back in that second quarter. They came in that second half. So at the half, they were 16 points down in the second quarter, but they were 12 points down at the half. And then with the Warriors blowing them away. This time, Steph's not scoring. It's Wiggins, it's Draymond, it's Clay, it's everybody else. And even Kevin Looney got in foul trouble very early. But the interesting thing about this game was, again, Robert Williams III. He's the only Celtics player with a positive plus minus. He only played 30 minutes. He needs to play 35 more. The extra 5 minutes could have changed the game because the Celtics came back in the third quarter. I don't know what Ime said to them, but they came back very strong. They got to a point where they were 2 points behind. They even ended up getting the lead. They were like 4 points in the lead. And then, as I spoke about in the preview, end of quarter play, the Warriors came back in the end of the third quarter to close out that gap and then have them lead with a Poole buzzer beater that ended up then Warriors leading by one. Interesting thing about Jordan Poole, he came on 14 points in like 13 minutes. That's the type of stuff you want. That's who this team is. They are a blitzkrieg team that can kill you in spurts, and that's what Jordan Poole is off the bench. And we're finally getting to see that Jordan Poole, who's had a pretty quiet final series for him. The other thing I think for me with the Celtics, Jalen Brown needed to step up as they too. If Tatum's going to score 27, you need Jalen Brown to step up. If Jason Tatum needs to break the mold and start being a 30, 40-point scorer. I don't know if Jason Tatum has it in him to be that superstar. Steph is that superstar. Steph can give you 30 points, 35 points, close to 40 points, and then you don't need everyone else to do that. Whereas now, if Tatum's going to be averaging in the 20s, you're going to need another guy who's a 1A, who is a 1B, who can do that for you. Jalen Brown today, scoring 18 points, it wasn't enough. It was 5 from 18 from the field. That's really poor. So here's the question. It's either Jason Tatum needs to do more or Jalen Brown needs to do more, but one of them needs to get the bulk of the scoring. I found that Jason Tatum was reluctant to take it all the way to the basket. He was just settling for mid-range shots. It wasn't great. I want Jason Tatum to be the freight train. Nobody can guard you. Do that. Jalen Brown used to do that the entire series. Now all of a sudden, game 5, he's got the fits. They settled for too many threes when they weren't falling, and I think that's another discussion. You need to keep pushing. Defensively, I think they were fine. They were okay. It's just that some of the screen work in terms of the switching wasn't working, and there were a few gaps in which that were created for the roll man, whereas they would double Steph when they don't need to double Steph. He's already got a bigger defender on him. And when they double Steph, it created opportunities for Wiggins. So they need to stop doubling Steph in Game 6 because they haven't doubled him. They've allowed him to get what he needs to get with the better defender. Peyton Pritchard's been good on him. Marcus Smart's been good on him, and everyone else in that Celtics line, even Robert Williams has been good on him. So it's just one of those situations where it was surprising that they were doubling Steph all of a sudden. And it opened up Van Wiggins. It opened up to dive and roll to the basket. It opened up for Draymond Green to dive and roll at the basket. There was that dunk that Wiggins had at the end, the exclamation point that Mike Green calls. That's what it is. It was a Wiggins game. He brought this. And if you think about the trade, everybody laughed at them for this trade. And we were like, no, they're taking a low-value piece and seeing what they can get from him and strengthen numbers. And all they'd want from Andrew Wiggins is to be a defender, a good enough defender, because he's lanky, he's rangy, he's got size. He adds size to the small ball. And he also can shoot. He can give you that, but this time, this is the man. This is the guy who actually could be the one that gets them over the hump. The Celtics, on the other hand, are finding themselves in that situation where you're the new team in the NBA Finals. You're going to win it for the first time, second time in 35 years. This group is the first time in the finals. Ime is the first time rookie coach in the finals. And so you find yourself in a situation where it's like, feels like it's white line view. You can see the promised land, but you just don't know how to get there. They're making elementary mistakes. Well, they've had a turnover problem the entire time. They cannot protect the ball. It looks careless. It looks like, I know there's more to it, and the defensive pressure, you've got to give them that. But some of their ball movement is careless. Their passing was careless in the first. Like the first play of the game, the first Celtics possession in the game, Marcus Smart throws the ball out. I don't know, it was Jason Tatum throws the ball out. He was looking for Al Horford. He missed Al Horford. Al Horford sitting in the corner. Jason Tatum was going for inside post. I don't know if he was waiting for Al to cut inside, but it wasn't working. And things like that. Marcus Smart needs to stop with these cross-court passes. The other thing that irritates me about the Celtics, they are bigger than the Warriors. And you know what they do? They'll drive into the lane, they'll get into the restricted area, and let me pass out. Just because there's a one-man there who you won't even get the offensive foul because the guy's even sitting in the restricted area or his legs. I just don't get it. I really don't. With some of the plays today, it's like, what's going on, guys? So now, for Game 4, protect the ball. Know that there's no tomorrow for the Celtics. There is no tomorrow. You lose, you're out. But I think this is the best place for the Celtics to be. I think this is the best position for the Celtics to be in, because I think the Celtics can then use this to fuel themselves to move forward. They struggled against a team that had one superstar in Giannis to beat them. They struggled against Miami in beating them together. They took them to Game 7 because Jimmy Butler was not refusing to roll over. They're having a similar situation with the Warriors, albeit the Warriors have a much better defense than Miami and Milwaukee, and they present different problems to the Celtics. But the Celtics team is the better basketball team. And we're going to look back on this series. And if there was a time that the Celtics blew their championship chance, it could be in this game. But they've got an opportunity on Thursday at home to turn it around. Whereas the Warriors, they're front runners. They've lost once from a 3-1 before. But in these playoffs, once they get the lead, they run away with it. Can they win 3 in a row? It's possible. I don't think so. But the thing in their hands is that Steph will never have as bad a game as this. And if Steph even gives them 5 or 10 points more, that means Steph will have about 26, 27. And if these guys are rolling again from an offensive perspective, they could win it. They've got the experience. They've been here before. They know how to close out championships. Celtics team looked like a team that didn't know how to close it out, and that's why they lost. But Game 6 is going to be great. Not a lot of adjustments. Steve Kerr still continued with that Otto Porter thing. I hope they get punished in Game 6, because if they do that and they start with Otto Porter, they should be punished. The Celtics didn't punish them today, and they ruined their chances. So right now, I think that's it. But outside of that, enjoy Game 6. That's going to be on Thursday night, going into Friday if you're in South Africa. Outside of that, thank you for watching the Ball and All podcast. I'll be back again on Friday morning to discuss what happened in Game 6. Will we have an NBA champion, or are we going to be going to Game 7 on Sunday in the Bay? I said the Warriors in 6, so they have to close it out now so I can keep my bet. And I then said a side thing is if it goes to Game 7, I do think the Celtics will win. They've gone through back-to-back Game 7s, and they've gone through that. So they know how to win that game. They just don't know how to win a final series. And I think that's where the issue comes in with this team. Outside of that, have a great day. Goodbye, and le sale. Kakahiso.